Welcome to Energy Work and Healing. I'm Trisha George, an energy healer and intuitive guide, here to help you reconnect with your body, your energy, and your truth. This podcast is all about blending spiritual integrity with practicality, offering grounded insights, energy tools, and real conversations to support your healing journey. Whether you're just beginning or deep into your process, you are in the right place. Let's dive into this together. Hi there, and welcome to the Energy Work and Healing Podcast. Today, we're going deep into the earth with the 10th chakra, known as the Earth Star, as well as going all the way up to the crown and above our head, where we're going to talk about the 9th chakra, which is the Soul Star. And here is where we're beginning to tap into universal source energy or cosmic energy from above, as well as drawing up earth energy from the central core of the earth. And here we're beginning to work with everything, everywhere, all at once, because we're working with the heavens as well as the earth. And many people talk about it in different manners, but if we understand that the 9th chakra is sort of where our soul is located, and that's where it actually comes into physical form as we incarnate into this physical body. And so it comes into the 9th, and for myself, I see the soul sit right about here after it enters the body, and that's right between the clavicles. And this is where we have our genetic makeup, our DNA. We can find information about our physical form through our ancestral lineage. And this is where energy really enters the body and begins to affect us on a physical level. So this is something where you may see patterns or habits within family, whether it's alcoholism or heart disease, and it is showing up lifetime after lifetime through your ancestral lineage because it's sort of implanted in the DNA. But what we can do here, and what's amazing about this chakra, is that we can actually adjust our DNA by adjusting that helix and bring new elements or new beliefs into our soul space, because this is our individual soul. And then we're sort of reprogramming ourselves. We can reprogram our ancestral traits, conditions that we learned in this lifetime, holdings, programming, anything like that can be altered in the 9th chakra. And if we know that that's the location, even though it's a subtle energy body, we know that that's where we need to do our work, because any healing that we sort of go through needs to be processed, whether it's from the 1st chakra, 2nd, the 4th, it has to be processed through the 9th so we can actually receive that healing on a soul level. So we want to be very conscious that we actually plug in through the 9th chakra and sort of update our information while we're working with the energetic body, because that in turn will allow us to manifest much more readily and easily into the physical. And this is done in order to mend any soul issues that maybe you brought in from a previous incarnation. Maybe you're trying to clear the ancestral lineage of your whole entire family line. It really depends, but your ultimate goal is to sort of operate in a new manner. And you're trying to develop a sort of new sense of self within you. So here we're sort of peeling away everything that no longer serves us, that we've held on to, limiting beliefs, stuck energy, strongholds, whatever you want to call it, but we're letting it go. And I like to say upload, because we're really uploading new information into that chakra through our other chakras. Because remember, energy moves from our feet all the way above our head. So we want to allow it to receive, we want to have it. And we want to be able to focus on how we can give ourselves permission to heal in this lifetime. Many times we'll say, it's just that this happened in my childhood and I can't get over it. And, I learned that from my parents, but that's in your past. That aspect of you no longer exists in a way. Yes, the memories are there because they're stored in your book of life, in your Akashic records, in your shadow records, right? But you don't have to mirror what happened in the past in your present moment. You can make a choice to change the information in the body, bring it into the ninth chakra, and then download it through your energy system. So, for example, if there's a limiting belief that you're not worthy to receive, maybe you're not worthy to receive the income that you desire because your family's pattern was to be angry about money all the time. And that might have gone back 3 generations where they had envy and resentment and hatred. But you, in this lifetime, can change that limiting belief by saying, I am able to receive, I'm in abundance of, and no longer operate from that ancestral information that's stuck in your ninth chakra. So you're doing that in a conscious effort with intention to reprogram it and add the new information up there into your ninth chakra. Now, when it's a physical ailment, let's just say your grandmother died of a heart attack and your 3 aunts follow the same exact experience. They all had heart issues and they all died from different heart conditions. And there might be a limiting belief in your head saying, oh, because I match my mother's side genetically more than my father's side, right? This is a limiting belief that we're creating. I'm going to die from a heart attack based on what my mother's side of the family experienced. But on the other hand, you have another whole side of DNA and genetics, and that person lives to be over 100 years old. But instead, you're going with that limiting belief that this is what's going to, take me out, make me transition off the earth plane. So how can you actually adopt new information and insert through that ninth chakra and change your circumstance? Your circumstance doesn't have to be defined by your family makeup. And it's really like living in an ancestral program that doesn't even really exist other than through your cellular structure, through your DNA. But by holding that and bringing it with you into the present life, you're sort of creating this form. You're manifesting that this is what you're going to experience because of ABCD. And I'm trying to share with you that you can change that. You can make a choice. Maybe your 3 aunts and your grandmother never exercised a day in their lives, right? Maybe they were homemakers, and there's nothing to say that there's anything wrong with that, but they didn't do any cardio work to strengthen their heart chakra. So how can you become different? How can you step into your life and your life decisions and not leave your destiny up to your ancestry? Because you're an individual soul. Yes, the soul is tied to many different circles and groups and people, but we can program ourselves. We can let ourselves believe and change our fate and our destiny and make a conscious decision about changing that outcome and owning our life experience. Knowing that that program is connecting to something, but we can actually just unplug it. We don't need to have that anymore. And this can be done through meditation in the ninth energy center, the ninth chakra, your soul star. and you can alter that strands, right? Up here, we're working with very subtle sort of fiber optic energy when we're in the chakras up here. So you can envision like this merger of information that's pushing out the limiting belief. So you are now supported by your new double helix, right? You have your new information in there, and you're allowing that old information to dissipate. And you can bring that down into the earth. You can recycle it there. You can send it with light and love up to the universe to be recycled from the universe, however you choose to create your sense of healing. But you want to let go of the stories. You want to get rid of the stories that no longer serve you in your life. Now, sometimes a soul chakra may be damaged because it's been information that's carried over from a previous incarnation. So, what do I mean by that? Say, for example, in a previous lifetime, you had an addiction, and maybe in this lifetime, you're not suffering from addiction, but everybody that you meet or come in contact with is an addict. Perhaps every man that you've connected with or woman that you've connected with, you're sort of attracting addiction energy into your space. And you're wondering why. Like, why am I finding these people? But if you realize that those people are coming to you to learn a specific lesson, it's showing you that, yes, you had addiction energy in a previous incarnation. And you're learning about observing addiction energy now by being in different relationships with people that may have addiction energy. But you can learn the lesson to say, I choose to see my growth, understand where I did have addiction energy, and that's stored in your book of life, right? Your Akashic records. And I'm going to also give myself permission to evolve and grow through wisdom. I'm actually going to ask questions before I get into a relationship. So that way we can sort of assist ourselves and allow ourselves to say, I learned the lesson. I see the picture, but I don't need to have that anymore. So I can move to neutrality because I have a better understanding of myself. And I can have compassion for all these individuals going through a situation I went through in a previous incarnation, but I can choose not to operate with it, with them. You can let them go on their own journey. So that way you can actually step into your path on moving forward. Because a lot of times you'll have an attraction and that attraction keeps showing up, but that's just the reminder that you've been there. You've had that experience and there was something attractive to it, right? There's a draw, but we have to be willing to let that go so we can evolve the soul in our ninth chakra. So we can start moving on. And through that, we can use amusement energy in the back of the fourth heart chakra, where we start bringing in sort of like a playful soul energy to let things just go and dissipate instead of holding on and getting heavy or maybe blaming ourselves. Now, you can also find inside the ninth chakra sort of obsessive compulsive OCD reactions that also affect our daily lives. And it merges similarly with addiction energy. But how can we stop trying to control the narrative, everything within our lives, right? We're keeping ourselves in a box. And how can we allow existence just to happen to us? Why do we have to try to dictate every single thing that occurs throughout our day? Because what happens with that, we learn very quickly that it doesn't work. We can't control every outcome, every narrative, especially when we're in relationship with other people, because they have their own free will. And by us trying to sort of manipulate or control that narrative on them, it makes them reduce themselves, and you're reducing yourself at the same time. So you're both going into a lower vibration. But if you give yourself permission to heal and say, okay, I see my obsessive compulsive personality. I can see where I need to have control of everything because of what I went through as a child. Maybe in your childhood, you felt like you never had any sort of control. So, how can you surrender? And I'm not saying surrender to a war, I'm just saying surrender to creation, to source energy, to the divine, and allow them to clear the path for you instead of you trying to forcefully move things out of your way. Doing it with ease and grace and faith rather than pressure or like a neuroses, I'll say, with obsessive compulsive. We have to know and understand that the soul or the spirit cannot heal itself without permission from the self. And this is the self that we're in. There has to be a desire to change, a knowingness that we can experience something new, that we can actually see a different way of perceiving things and realize that we don't have to be instilled over and over again by the conditioning and programming that was implanted in us as we were growing up. And through that, we give ourselves a sort of acceptance, right? We're giving permission to have and permission for that change to happen. And this is where we want to be open, because when we're open in the ninth chakra, we can be open to our soul's purpose, not only our life purpose, but what did your soul come here to learn, to do, to be? And we're going to talk about the life purpose a little bit later when I do a episode on the horror line. But just to understand that by letting your soul breathe, like breathing your breath up above your head into your crown from your diaphragm, is you're creating energy and momentum and flow. And you're giving yourself the permission to experience so that your life path just sort of flows a little bit more easily because you're not getting congested up there. You're not getting stuck. And like I said, in the horror line, we'll do that in a different episode, but that's about the three dantians, which are all about your inner power and your will and how you're going to will things through your body, through your horror line to focus on your life path. Now, way on the other side, right, we're dualities here. So you have your ninth chakra 3 feet above your head. Now we're going to go about a foot into the earth. And a foot into the earth is where you're going to see or feel, I'll say, the Earth Star, some people call it, but it's the 10th chakra. Now, I see this one as a disc and not a cone, and it usually resides a foot below the earth. Now, do I always see it there? I'm going to say no, because sometimes I could see it at people's shins. I could see it at their ankles, right at their toes. It just depends. But if you realize that this is where we have a deep connection to the earth, we move on this planet that's moving. I mean, I love thinking about that in random times of the day. We are on a moving planet and we are here, planted. We are grounded in our life through our chakra system, through our energy body, following our life path through that ninth chakra, that star soul chakra, number 9. But we need to support ourselves. So if we're neutral in the sense of we know that we are grounded by gravity, by the magnetic field, and that the earth's energy can support us, just as the ninth chakra, because the ninth chakra is bringing energy up and through. This energy from the earth is coming from below the magnetic field and going into our bodies to sort of merge with that soul energy later in the pelvic region. And you're trying to allow yourself permission to function fully and completely in this time and space 3D reality that we're living in. And this energy center, to me, is really the heart of the chakra system. And it's here to remind us to be stable, to be balanced, to have the courage to walk through our lives, to teach us to stand on our own 2 feet. Many people, they don't wish to take the time to connect to the earth. A lot of intuitive people I know, they like to stay in the upper chakras because they're floating. They're actually not really grounded to the earth. So I sort of see their feet floating or gliding along the earth's surface rather than the roots being planted down into the earth. And that's where daydreaming takes place, your imagination, wishing we had things that we may not have, but we're not securing it to anything. We're not tethering it to the earth. And we lose the opportunity there to fully connect these 2 different energies, these 2 different elements of who we are, the ether and the earth. And we stop that connection and we stop that merger from happening within. And for myself, that's where when the heart's in full resonance, we can just explore, express, and enjoy no matter what's going on in our life. And that gives us the capacity to manifest, to be, because we're trusting in source energy. We know that we're an aspect of the divine, and the divine's an aspect of ourselves. So we're allowing this to flow in. And for myself, I'll see it like a figure 8, like an infinity symbol that's constantly coming up, down, in, and around through our body, pulling in earth energy and cosmic energy. And when we have this going on, our fears will drift away, our anxieties, our stress, because we're trusting. We're having the courage to walk through our life as our authentic, fullest self. And that's with like an unwavering certainty. No one can change who we are because we become a witness to all that is. And this is how we're calling in divine source energy. And we're using the earth elements constantly to assist us on our path. And what I mean by that is we're referring to earth, air, water, fire, metal. There's so many more elements, but minerals, if we get into minerals, but we're using those within our system to help support us and guide us. We spoke about it in regards to the second chakra, where we're dealing with the earth element of water. And when we're in excess, it sort of swells up into our third chakra, putting out that fire, our desire, our will, our way that we move forward in our lives. So we want to try to utilize everything that we see around us as a reminder of what we need to be working on and how we can actually intentionally let it heal us if we use it. And if we use those elements and sort of walk forward with this sort of unwavering certainty, we act as if we're like a warrior. And when you're a warrior, you're brave enough to walk alone. And you're doing it in a sense that it's not that you're lonely, but it's just that you're making a definitive choice that your authenticity of who you are as a physical, mental, emotional, spiritual human being are more important than anything else, especially when we live in this materialist society. And that this authentic self is what you're showing to the world. So you're providing this transparency to others, and you're allowing yourself to have experiences no matter what lies ahead in front of you. without anticipation or judgment or expectations. And that's why I call the 10th chakra the heart of the chakra system, because this is sort of in a way having us break away from the shackles of the ego. We're not living in fear anymore. We're not living in anxiety anymore. And we're actually having the courage to be who we are. And when we integrate all those four aspects of ourself, nothing really holds us back, because we're living in a sort of awakened consciousness. Because by connecting the 10th chakra that's a foot below your feet and that 9th chakra 3 feet above your head through the 12th chakra, which we're going to talk about in the next episode, nothing can hold you back. Because you're realizing that it's all just a construct. It's just like a matrix. Now, what happens when we're ungrounded, when this chakra is, say, at the shins, we can become easily distracted, living in fear, living with unknowingness, engaging in sort of, like I was saying earlier, like excessive daydreaming or overthinking or just this dreamy energy, because we don't know how to stay grounded. For us, we literally don't have roots underneath our feet. So we're like, oh my gosh, but if I lift up my foot, I'm not grounded anymore, right? So, but it's not true. There's a pull that's bringing that foot back to the earth. So we're focusing in that respect on everything external outside of us and not realizing, yes, we have to pick the foot up to walk, but it is magnetically pulled to go back to the earth. Gravity is always pulling us back down. So we want to know that when we're feeling ungrounded, I always refer to it with my clients like an ostrich with its head in the sand, where it's trying to avoid its life. It's trying to disassociate because something's scary or fearful. So we got out of that warrior energy, that brave heart energy, and we got into fear. So the body's like, doesn't know what to expect or anticipate. So it wants to hide, right? So that's when you know when you're ungrounded, when there is that fear in your space, because that's lighting up your first chakra, saying you're not safe. And then all of a sudden the legs could get shaky. Your third chakra can start feeling like butterflies, right? Your solar plexus, you're having stomach issues. And that's just your body telling you, listen, you're not grounded. So the body is really saying like, I can't deal with this stress. I'm out of here. And it pops out literally. I mean, just as when we were an infant in our mother's womb, we were constantly jumping in and out of our physical space, this physical form, the womb. And you're sort of doing the same thing, because it's like you can't deal with your day-to-day life because you implanted stress, anxiety, fear, anxiousness. I mean, there's so many words for it. And that gives you the sense of the inability to be safe on the earth. But it's not true. It's just your inability to process your emotions and your feelings. So they start vibrating within your energetic field everywhere, and you don't know how to process the information. So it just stays there vibrating instead of letting it go through your feet or letting it go up through the atmosphere. You're letting it go until you can learn how to ground, where you're processing those emotions and those feelings in a healthy manner. And you're releasing what no longer serves you. You're creating boundaries with others, and you're owning your space. And you're trusting all the sort of signs that are showing up for you that remind you that you're safe. So we want to be very careful about when we feel stuck in the mud or things aren't going our way, or maybe we're always, sort of crying, poor me, because we feel like we're lacking support. But maybe in your life path, it's where you need to learn how to support yourself. Because we're living in more than one dimension at the same time. So we want to allow ourselves to connect that all that is, not just the higher chakras or our ego or our emotional body or our mental body. We're trying to integrate, right? We're integrating all those four bodies together to create a solid, authentic self. And you need to utilize your chakra system, your energetic body, the body before you were physical, and realize the signs when you're ungrounded. Another example of being ungrounded rather than floating could be where you're retaining water, you're retaining fluid in your body. And you could gain weight very quickly because your body's saying, oh my gosh, I don't feel safe. I don't have time to process my emotions. So I need something to hold me to the earth. So the body's like, okay, I'm just going to give you more weight. So as you're drinking the liquids and the fluids, you're getting, sort of bloated in your body. You could also start feeling like dizzy or lightheaded, or maybe like you have a little bit of vertigo because you're not fully present in your present moment, right? You're not in your center. You're not where that cervical vertebrae is, right? You want to come right into the sacrum and right into the cervical spine, and that's your center. So you always want to remember that you're working on your center, trying to stay in the present moment, because that dizziness, the sort of uneasiness, it's either you're jumping into the past or into the future, and you're not staying within your present moment. And I'm not saying you have to meditate all the time, but how can you keep yourself focusing on your grounding and connecting with the earth and staying conscious in conscious awareness? Because that's the essence of who we are. The distractions in our life tend to throw us in the future or the past. And that's sort of the way society's, in a way programmed us, because we're always looking for that other thing we don't have, right? We're never really content with where we are. And then we're always blaming everything that happened in our past for who we are today and why we can't obtain or receive or have something. But those excuses, we have to sort of like knock them to the wayside and let them go and focus on that warriorship, that self-confidence, that steadfast decision to stay in our center and move forward in our life, supporting ourselves and supporting ourselves in a courageous manner, not in a depressive manner, because that's when you're telling yourself you're in lack. So all the chakras we've talked about so far, the 10th, the 11th, all the way through the 9th, are all contained within the 12th chakra. And the 12th chakra holds all the auric layers that dwell in and around our body. And it also holds on to our chakra system and our heart line. And we're going to dive into the auric field and the 12 chakras in our future episodes. But until then, how can you possibly try to utilize your energy centers in your day-to-day life? How can you check in with them? How are they spinning? Are they aligned? Are they moving clockwise or counterclockwise? Do they feel balanced or imbalanced? Check in with yourself. Learn to be your own barometer and try to diagnose what's going on inside your body. By listening to these episodes, I'm trying to share with you the methodologies and the ideas and the concepts for each chakra. And through that knowingness, it should help you get a better understanding of where they're located, how they're spinning, what it looks like when they're in surplus or shortage. But you want to try to understand who you are as a complete human being, having a spiritual experience on a soul level. So until next time, practice, be strong, be confident, and be courageous. And I look forward to sharing more information with you regarding the chakras, we're going to go to chakra 12, the aura, and the Hara line. Thank you for joining me on Energy Work and Healing. If today's episode resonated with you, be sure to subscribe, share it with someone who might need it, and leave a review. Remember, your energy matters, and your healing helps heal the world. Here, we honor the path of blending spiritual integrity with practicality so you can walk empowered, aware, and aligned. Until next time, stay grounded, stay open, and keep listening to the wisdom found within.